Hi everyone, Mickey Jacobs here. Welcome to today's webinar. Please shoot Clayton an email, as you know we always do, to make sure that you see me good. Jojo, of course, to make sure that you see me good. And if you have any problems, perhaps you can shoot a quick email to Clayton and he can help you. But thank you and welcome to today's webinar. I do want to apologize about the last time, which was a few weeks ago. You know, we're renting that fancy office here with that speed internet, supposedly, and we were ready to start the webinar, and it just the unreliable era of the internet just kind of backfired on us, and we needed to leave. So I apologize. I always greatly appreciate you guys. Take your time and join the webinar, so thank you. So as you know by today's topic, we're going to talk about fear today, obviously a common and important topic for us human beings here on this planet. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about fear, how to look at fear, how to obviously, as I said in the message, in the topic, how to free yourself from fear, how to overcome fear. Did you get stream? Is she okay, Jojo? Honey?
I'm checking.
Okay, so yeah, Jojo, I'm hoping you'll be able to. Nothing yet. Huh. So we'll talk about all that, and of course, Angel Chat is all about the perspective of the soul on fear, because there are, of course, various perspectives of fears, meaning if you would go to a therapy, perhaps they would give you different outlook or different perspective on fears. But as my work as a medium and a spiritual teacher, of course, my perspective on fear, as well as all the other topic, is from the perspective of our soul and the perspective of our incarnations on earth. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. So important topic, listen and try to understand. Also, I was thinking today, perhaps you can shoot me more specifically fear as the fear relate to you. Perhaps you have a nagging fear, such as fear of death, which of course is very common among us human beings. So if you would like, as you know, I like an interactive kind of a webinar. So you can send Clayton and he would relate to me the question, and I'll see if I can even tune into your spirit guide and get some advice for you. So let's go ahead and jump into the topic of fear. You know that my teaching about fear is first and foremost is understand that we are indeed a fearful species, in a way that when you know that all human beings, obviously to some degree, some better than other, but to some degree we are indeed very fearful species. It is the mind and the body that we incarnate into when a soul enter planet Earth and ready to yet experience another life in a physical body. So why am I telling you that? Because it's just part of who we are. It is just a byproduct of who we are, human being. Fear is something that we grow through, meaning overcoming fear, entering planet Earth with fear. This is something that very much include within the lesson that we're supposed to learn on each specific incarnation here on Earth. So, you know, sometimes when you know that this is not something that is very specific to you, once again, everyone have, of course, different level. Some human beings are more fearful than others. Nonetheless, we are all a fearful species. There is no such a thing as a no fear on planet Earth. Even if you are able to somewhat overcome or discipline or rise above your fear, fears would still accompany you. That is because it is a part of who we are, and indeed it is a part of the ego, which is obviously not the soul, which our soul is fearless, of course. So everyone have it. So first and foremost is kind of be aware, acknowledge that this is something that you came here to overcome. Again, in general, the concept of fear, and it's just simply something that we will all experience throughout our life, each life on planet Earth, whether we come here for 8 years or 80 years. So this is something I always like to tell people. So right off the bat, kind of know that this is something that's important to acknowledge. And therefore, you kind of let your fear, you allow your fear to be expressed. Obviously, in today's webinar, I'm going to teach you how to not let your fear govern your life, which why I use the phrase of the subject of today's webinar, free yourself from your fear. So although you have your fear like Mickey has and all others, I will teach you how to be able to free yourself from that. Now, being able to free yourself from fear or rise above fear or discipline the fears, as you know, sometimes I use those phrases in other topics in the past. Obviously, the more spiritual human being you are, what does that mean? You know that I also mention spiritual in every other topic that I teach you. Spiritual is that you trust the bigger picture as what it is that you're doing here, that you're not just floating around, you didn't just happen to enter to this life in what it is you do with the challenges that you go through. Underneath the seemingly chaotic world, everything is quite organized because our beautiful creator, of course. So although everything appears chaotic, whether it is collectively to us planet Earth, to us human being, as well as individually, everything is really pretty much in order, in a way that whatever we are experiencing on planet Earth is for the sake of growth. So some of the fears that you are experiencing indeed is the sole growth of the sole way of growth, meaning you'll be able to you really your purpose indeed to face it and to overcome it and to rise above it. The reason I use the phrase that the more growth, the more spiritual you are, the easier it is for you to face fear, because if you are aware that things happen for a reason. You know that I don't, for those of you that experience reading with me or are familiar with my teaching, I really don't like too many phrases, specifically that a lot of phrases on planet Earth are abused and overused. Nonetheless, sometimes, obviously, I do have to use words. So when I mean things have to, you know, that things have a reason, your life have a reason, your life have purpose, all your challenges have purpose, you are here for a reason, your soul very much plan the life that you live right now. So as a spiritual person, meaning the more spiritual, the more you are aware that nothing just happened to us, that everything is very organized, that obviously you do not go through this harsh planet by yourself. You're never alone, not ever. You know my main teaching about the team, if you will, that you have a spirit guide and guardian angel and archangels. Our departed loved one accompany us throughout the life. And of course, there is God that governs all of us. So when you are spiritual in a way that you look at your life from the perspective of your soul, you look at your life with a purpose, you know that no matter how difficult your life is, no matter how fearful you are not walking alone, not ever. From the moment you enter to a new body, meaning at the time of birth, until you go home to the spirit world at the time of death, you have a bunch of spirits, or team as I call them, that accompany you. So why is that helping you with fear? Obviously, if you are to identify with planet Earth and you think you are the only one, no one is there with you. When you're dead, you're going to be buried 6 feet under and no continuation of the soul. Obviously, fears would be more significant for you, of course, because the more spiritual human being you are, the more you believe in prayers, the more you believe that if you ask spirits to help you with fear, there are no unanswered prayers. Never. They are always going to help us if we ask for help or their assistance, specifically with fear. So in general, the number one rule to free yourself is first, which I started the webinar with, is be aware that fear is just part of who we are. We're just fearful species. And second is another important reason as to why you want to grow spiritually, why you want to live your life, looking at your life, the good and the bad, specifically your challenges or your fear from perspective of growth. You want to remember that you're not alone. You want to remember that what you have is bunch of spirits that accompany you, that helping you. So when you want to face your fear, you obviously can have someone to share it with. I don't mean just your people on planet Earth, your husband, wife, kids, your loved one. I'm talking about those powerful spirits that accompany you, your angels. So do release your fear to them. Be spiritual, meditate so you can connect to them. Obviously, live your life as a spiritual human being. You know my teaching. You must practice what you teach others. You cannot be a rotten human being and say you're spiritual, of course. So you want to live your life spiritual, and as time go by, you're going to realize that you share your fear, whether it is any fear. I'm not even looking to specific fears. Any fear, when you're spiritual, when you know there is a deeper things to think, there is a purpose, there is a reason, even if you are very much a fearful human being, it would calm you down, it would lessen your fears. And the reason for that is because you're not alone, of course. So those two major concepts is something that you must adapt if you are a fearful person, if you are a level 10 fearful, or if you are level 1 fearful, meaning, again, some people more fearful than others. You something that you absolutely want to aim to, that you know that spirits are aware of your fear. God, obviously, aware of everything, obviously aware of your fear. You can share your fears with your team, with spirit, and everything have a reason. Another thing that's important about fear is you want to make sure that you don't just call yourself fearful. You're fearful of what? You can be fearful of everything. No one is fearful of everything, obviously. So you want to break down the monster that call a fear. Because people come to me, in my work event or readings. No, Mickey, I'm fearful. Are you fearful about what? Are you fearful about your kids? Are you fearful about death? Are you fearful about not finding a job? Are you fearful about losing weight? So obviously, fear is a big umbrella name. What you want to do, you want to face that monster and try to break it up and kind of write it down. Have a plan about your fear. Be able to look at it in the eye, if you will, and be a little bit more detailed or specific as to what specific fear do you have. So you'll be able to face a bit more specific challenge other than just a fear in general, because obviously the bigger the monster, the more it's going to overwhelm you. What I'm trying to tell you, working over the years with so many people, and obviously my own life, I was or am at times fearful like all other human beings, is that if you divide your fear, put it in priority, if you're able to kind of break it up, if you will, if you're able to not look at it as about one big umbrella, no, I'm fearful, then you'll be able to kind of deal with it better, because all of a sudden, as I give you the little bit of example, obviously of fear of not getting a job, this is something that you'll be able to face better. Because if your fear is not to be able to get a job, let's say, which has to do with day-to-day life fear, that of course everyone have, if you do not have a job and you need to pay your bills, obviously. But if that is your fear, it would be a completely different game plan, or you'll be completely different plan to face a fear of death, or fear that your kid's gonna die, or fear that you're gonna be ill, or fear that you're gonna be old and no one gonna love you anymore. Obviously, so that's why I came to the conclusion that if we break up our fear, it's not that huge umbrella that call a fear, but rather it's something, because you also might find out that your fear are normal, which why I gave the example of fear of not losing finding a job, or you might find yourself with fears that are a little bit more exaggerate or bigger, such as fear of death. So obviously, fear of life, again, if you lost a job, naturally you're going to be fearful, although I would say maybe fearful / worry. You're going to be worried how you're going to pay your bills, but something you can control in a way that you fix your resume and you send jobs out there. And then you apply the concept that your spirit guides, spirits that accompany you, very much aware of your life, and they would open the right door for you. Remember, as I always teach you, that I always add the concept of help from spirits. If you do not help them, they cannot do anything. We're not machines, we do what we want, and we have free will. In order to benefit from spirits' help, we must have to help them. The more we help them, the more they helping us, because it's free will. If we decide to remain in fear, what can they do? So if you realize, so once you break up your fears and you wrote it down, and perhaps in priority, my biggest fear is that, and then I fear that, if it's fear of life, like fear of not finding a job, a lot of women come to me and their fear is that they're going to remain single. They say, Mickey, I don't have anyone, and I'm 40, or and I'm 45, or and I'm 50. What's going to happen to me? I'm not. First of all, don't panic. It's a fear that can change, because if you ask to meet someone, you will meet someone. If you ask to meet someone and you stay home, no one going to come knocking on your door, obviously. So as you can see, the benefit of breaking up the fear is you're going to be able to kind of face each fear that you have and design a plan for that specific fear. So once again, the concept, knowing you have spirits that hear you, you ask to get help, and you apply your own work as well. Meaning you help them to help you, otherwise nothing's going to happen naturally. If you experience a little bit bigger fears, obviously, again, such a fear of death, a lot of people are very, very fearful that their kids going to die, especially when the kids are young, or fear that they're going to be ill. What you do with fears like that, two things. First, you are aware of your fear. You are aware of the thought of the fear. You've heard me talk before about how to get rid of negative thinking, and remember in one of the videos, because I always kind of touch that subject a little bit, is you want to be aware of your thoughts. If you're going to let your thoughts, and in this case your fear, which obviously original from fearful thought, if you're not going to be aware of it, you're going to let it run wild. And it's going to take over, and it's going to completely drag you down like a wild river. So what you want to do with fear, specifically bigger fear, when I mean bigger fears, fear that you can control. You don't know how long you have here in this beautiful planet. You don't know if your soul signed for 50 years, 80 years, or you're going to go home tomorrow. You don't know that. You're going to know that when you go home. You don't know how long you signed. You don't know when you're going to die. Obviously, you need to be careful, value life, make sure you're not reckless and stupid. Otherwise, you will die. Nonetheless, you don't know when you're going to die, as well as with kids. Fear of your children going to die, or it's going to be an accident for your children, or fears that you cannot control. It's out of your control, which why I started with webinar, to know that even if you think you are out of control, other spirits are in control. Your soul is in control. Remember, what within the body is a spark of God, your higher self, your soul, which govern a lot of your life. Of course, your job is to make sure you align with yourself, with your soul. So you think you're out of control. You think those fears, it's something you cannot control, but they are controlled. Because if your soul entered this planet for 40 years, there's nothing you can do about it. You will exit planet Earth after 40 years. If it shows 80 years and you value life, then you have a long, lovely journey. So again, in order to overcome those fears that are not in your control, you need to first, once again, go back to my original point that indeed everything is organized, everything is in control. I don't mean you and your ego, I mean your soul, spirits, what you do here on planet Earth, the concept of incarnation. So first and foremost, if a fear a thought kind of surface up, you go right to the core and to your spiritual awareness or your spiritual belief or your spiritual practice, such as a meditation. Perhaps you can go to spiritual material where you can read to connect you more with the spiritual concept. But being aware of thoughts, being aware of your fears is very, very effective, very beneficial, because every time that you're going to be aware, essentially you don't let your fear or the fearful thought to just drag you around like a rag doll. So when you are aware of the thought in a way that you said, here it is again, you actually, as I often recommend to people, is to say it out loud. Here it is again. If a thought about fear of death come up, or a thought about being sick and got cancer and die, what you want to tell yourself is actually out loud, here it is again. The concept about being aware of thought, and in this case, fearful thought, is when you are aware of the thought, that's actually not you, that's actually your higher self. So it's quite a fascinating concept that I know that I talk about it in previous, videos. But being aware of anything negative, whether it is of fear, as it's related to this webinar, or any negative thought, for example, the need to lash out, anger, jealousy, negativity. So anything that originates out of the ego, the negative part of our mind. Some ego people call different things, as you know, I call it ego. So as well as fear, when you are aware of your fear, you facing it. And when you facing it, the moment you make the decision, the conscious decision to be aware of the thought, you face it. And when you face the thought, you are able to get a hold of it. You don't let you kind of drag you around, because you know how a fear is. Fear is energy. Everything is energy. Good things have energy, negative things have energy. So if you have a fear of death, which is extremely common, let's say you have fear of death, it's not going to remain the same energy. If you allow it, it will grow and will drag you like a wild river. Specifically as you get older, if you have a fear of that when you're 20 and you're not disciplined, naturally as you're getting 40, 50, 60, you're going to be more and more fearful, which why you want to get a hold of it. Rely on the spiritual concept as well, obviously, as be aware of the thought. A lot of people don't, they weary about that technique. I did get this technique from the Archangel Michael some years ago when I asked him, how can I be on control of my ego? So I did get taught from the channeling over the years, specifically the Archangel Michael, as to how to do that. Well, let me reassure you, it does work. Otherwise, I will be the most fearful human being on planet Earth. I was very much fearful. I was fearful that my animal kids would die, and I was very a fearful species. So fearful a person. So the technique of slowing down your energy and be aware of your thought, more specifically aware of a repeat thought that you cannot control, such as fear of death, such of getting older. Do you know how many people come to me terrified of getting older? Terrified. It doesn't matter how they look. It doesn't matter what they accomplish or not accomplish. Those are successful people that look beautiful. They're 60, they look 30. It doesn't matter because fear is illusionary. It doesn't have any logic to fear. It's illusionary. So people are afraid of getting older. Well, what are you going to do? You are going to get older. Might as well enjoy it and just enjoy the age that you are. If Mickey is 52, Mickey's not going to look 20. So might as well embrace that I'm 52. So you see, you again divide your fears. We established that in the previous step I taught you. You write them all down. You see which fears belong to planet Earth that you can control, that you can change, like a loss of the job, like a loss of a home. You save money, you okay, you buy eventually another home, you look for job, like being single and a fear of not finding someone. Then you believe in love and you go out. And you put your energy out there and spirits would navigate towards you the right life partners. So we established that in the right column, perhaps, if you will, you put those fears that are a little bit more day-to-day fear, while in the other column, as we established, you put fears that are just something that you cannot do, like fear of death, like fear of getting older, fears that you cannot do anything about. So you are aware of it, you write it down, you not upset at yourself because they're there, because as we established, we are fearful species to one respect, one degree or another. We all have the fear, and then you absolutely try to be aware of your fearful thought. The more you practice be aware of a fearful thought, the more you practice in the process. If you know that many times I tell you in the webinar, whether it's you teach me or any other spiritual teacher, whether you tell yourself, no, that's nonsense. You can listen to me from now until 2020. If your mind is telling you it's nonsense, which sometimes the mind say that in spiritual teaching, no, it doesn't make sense. I don't see how being aware of the thought would cause me to be not fearful. If you're gonna do that, then obviously it's going to. Do you need something, Clayton? Okay, then don't, please. If you do that, if you are unaware, if you are, I'm sorry, I lost my thought. I thought Clayton was talking to me. So you are aware of your thought, you slow down your energy, you will take the power away from your thought. The more you are aware of a fear, because it's energy, and if you are not aware of it, you're going to let it flow. And because the nature of energy is not to remain at one place, it's either go forward or backward. It's either lessen, meaning you stop the energy, be aware of it, control it, if you will, in a good way, of course, by being aware of your fearful thought, or you let it go. You let it go, it would move far further and further, and we grow like a snowball. And as I say, it would drag you, and especially as we grow older, if we are not aware of any negative traits, including fears, they would surface up and exaggerate themselves. This is just nature of human being. In a way, the same thing like the body. Naturally, when the body is young, it's stronger, less illnesses, we feel vibrant, we feel great. As we grow older, if you're not watching the weaknesses of the body, obviously you're going to have more aches and pain, your mind going to be, so everything need to be more and more controlled in a good way. We use this, obviously, word in a good way. So you are aware of your thoughts, you, especially the one that's not logic, like fear of death, So here, as you can see, you start building a plan, kind of one concept after another, in a way that first you are aware that everyone is fearful. You have to rise above it. This is just part of experience life on planet Earth, which why our soul loves it so much here on planet Earth, because it's such an effective school. So being aware of it. The second thing you want to do, as we discussed, is obviously know that you're not alone, that you know that you're not walking through this this planet or this harsh life alone, specifically your fear. Remember also the concept that once spirit realize that you utilizing your free will to get better. What does that mean? Let's say after the webinar, you follow up the advice, you write down your fear, you make 2 columns, fears of life, which we all have. I don't know, fear of economy, losing a job, finding a life partner. And the other column are fear that are not realistic. If you're healthy and you're fearful that you'll be ill, that's not realistic, because you're supposed to be happy that you're healthy now. So you make your list, you look at your fear right in the face, the fears that you can change, research what you need to do about it. If you want a job and you send 1 resume, obviously that's not going to help you, and spirit's hands are tied. If you look for a job, you need to have a strong resume. You send 20, let me reassure you that you will get a job, because spirit will help. So you have your 2 fears and you tend to them. You fix what you can. Once you fix those fears that are fixable, because they're planet Earth or life fears, you can take them off your plate. Once you find a job, you take it off the plate. And another thing that overcomes fear is gratefulness. As you know, I spoke perhaps one time, maybe I'm going to look into a webinar that talk only about gratefulness. To be grateful to your life, to be grateful to what you have, to look at the cup half full and not half empty, does help get over fear, because it's kind of keep you aligned to yourself, to your higher self, the soul within the body, keep you aligned with spirits, of course, with the creator. So, and when you hold gratefulness to your life, when you force yourself to look at the cup half full, and I mean force, because the ego, the nature of our personality as human being is usually look what we don't have. And when you look what you don't have, you accumulate more fear, because you don't have those. Focus on what you do have. When you put more energy or thought about what you do have, hence gratefulness, the plate is a bit less full with fears. That's actually just common sense. The more positive, the more you focus what you have less to fearful about, less life fears to focus about. So gratefulness, which is something that I daily do in my morning meditation, where I force myself, if you will, to look at the cup half full. Otherwise, as you're familiar, being human being yourself, that the mind kind of drift, if you will, and look, the ego sometimes tend to actually look, search for what it is I don't have, which is, of course, a bottomless pit. So look at the cup half full, make a habit for yourself to daily, whether it is you want to do it in your meditation, in the morning, daily, to actually look at the cup half full, because being grateful, count your blessing, if you will, and kind of be aware of what you have would lessen the list of the day-to-day fear. I'm not talking about the one you can control, obviously. So when it's come to your life fear, that's another thing that you can do, and it does work. So back to the column or to the list of the fear that illusionary, the fears that there's nothing you can do about it. Be aware of it. Every time and there is a thought coming up, whether it is fear or illness, be aware of it. Listen, things, especially fears, especially those big fears, such as fear of death. I keep repeating it because it's just an example. Fears that are kind of like beyond your control. Actually, the fear is losing control, of course. So when you're aware of those fears, the awareness of it kind of take the power away from it, because you stop it. You don't kind of suck into the fear, which often people get into a panic attack, an anxiety attack. Once a fear is so severe, people come my way that don't leave the house because they're afraid to get run over by a car. So the fear started very little. They were just afraid to die young. And then they allowed their fear to take over. They did not control the fear. They did not rely on spiritual concept. They were not aware of the fear. They did not, did the work of fear. Then the fear become bigger and bigger, where people actually, from a little normal fear of death to a place where they actually do not want to leave the house, illusionary, thinking that that would be more safe. Of course, the fear continued to cause havoc in their life. So I'm giving you example as to the danger when we do not get freedom of our fear for the most part. Obviously, all human beings don't want to die. It's obvious. We have a loved one here, we have kids, we have spouse, we have family. I don't want to die and leave our family, but that's a big difference than let the fear of death govern my life all day, every day, where I see hundreds of people with that specific fear, the fear of death or fear like it. Sometimes people are not afraid for them and are afraid for their loved one. Fear is fear. And either way, that fear is illusionary, because you cannot control how long you live, other than obviously try to stay healthy. And you don't know how long your kid's going to live, other than watch over them and always pray, which we talked about in the beginning. Other than that, you just leave it alone, which brings me to my next practice for you as to what to do, freedom yourself with fear. Essentially, it also has to do with spiritual growth, and it's called, you just surrender. You know the serenity prayer. Of course, the very common serenity prayer, where we ask God to grant us the serenity to accept the thing we cannot change and give us the courage to change the thing we can. I absolutely love this prayer. For those of you that know, I work as a chaplain in a hospital, and I often pray with people that are sick or people that are dying or their family, and I use that specific prayer because essentially you ask God to help you. Just let me be okay with where I am. When you ask God, the Creator, when you ask God and His angels and spirit, where you are, meaning whether you are healthy, not so healthy, whether your life is challenged, whether you are 40 or 60 or 85. When you ask God to give you the serenity to accept the things the way they are, and then the courage to change what you can, fears have no room, because they will not coexist. You cannot be a human being that is spiritual except where you are. You cannot be a human being that you know when you want to get, when you get over fear, when you say, I am okay here and I'll be okay if I'll go home, because I'll go back to God. And I knew that I was pretty much over fear when I came up to that specific say, and I meant it. That doesn't mean I want to go home. That doesn't mean I don't hope for a long, lovely life. It's mean that I was able to just accept my age, accept the life that I'm in, and if I go home, I go home. What can I do? Obviously. So it's not care. It's come from the perspective of spirituality, that you just surrender and accept where you are. So again, there is certain practices, whether it is that you can do with yourself, aware of your thought, grow spiritually, prayer, meditation. There's certain things today that as you have a plan, as you include all those exercises, your fears are naturally not going to go away in a day, because fears are very powerful. That's why I started the webinar. It's a byproduct of who we are. We just fearful species. So it's not going to go away, nor it's going to take your fear completely. Because obviously, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, no one want to go home. No one want to die. We all want to go naturally in our sleep at the age of 95. Well, sometimes it doesn't happen like that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We don't know what's going to happen. So we all have some fear of the unknown, I suppose, as to where we're going. Although as you grow spiritually, you pretty much have a good idea where you're going. So you can eventually, as you start practice, as you start applying those exercise, as you start to slow down your energy. I know that I use that phrase to a lot of different exercise that I teach you over the angel chat, the videos. As you slow down, mean being aware of your thought. Don't let the fear drag you down like a wild river. As you apply all those exercise, as time go by, you're going to realize that slowly but surely you will be able to lessen your fear. You're certainly going to be able to overcome some of your life fear, because once you look at it, you can have plan, you can take some of your current fear off your plate by planning, which why I gave the example of finding a job. If you don't have a job, you can find a job and take that fear off your plate. You can take that, which why I didn't want you to put all your fear in one big umbrella. No, not everyone have all the fear. There's all kind of different fears. So once you separate it, which once why again I brought it right at the beginning, easier for you to examine exactly what are your fear. You can also examine where your fear come from. A lot of fears we bring from previous lives. This is just a fact. Some souls bring with them to an incarnation from previous lives. Because although we have what I call a spiritual amnesia, meaning at the time we enter planet Earth, we do not recall our true nature as soul. Nor do we recall God. We do not recall that this is only a school, that we come here for temporary time, whether it is 5 years or 85 years. We do not remember all that, because part of the growth in an earthly incarnation is to rediscover all that. Hence, grow spiritually. So we don't remember that, but sometimes there is a little bit of a bits and pieces of the memory that surface up. So sometimes I know people come to me and they tell me, Mickey, I don't know why I'm terrified of elevator. Or they tell me, I don't know why I'm terrified of the dark. Or they tell me, I don't know why I'm terrified of the woods. Now, perhaps what I do for a living is helpful in a way that I'm a medium and I kind of contact their spirit guide. And indeed, some of the reason for that, they bring from previous life, whether there's a lot of reason as to how we die in previous lives. So I'm just telling you that some of the fears that are very much rooted within us, some, that's the kind of minority, not the majority. Some are indeed kind of we bring with us with previous life. I use the phrase in my work, residue. There is a residue of a fear, whether we die a certain way in previous life, and the memory is kind of very vague. So we express it as fear, you know, because perhaps something happened in previous life. Sometimes. Do you have to know what it is? No, most people don't know, but I'm bringing to your attention that sometimes it can be that fears that are unexplainable. I mean, people come to me with bizarre fears and they don't know what's happened, but most that they might bring at previous life. Most fears, you can find out why. For example, the fear of aging, that is a little bit more woman than men. A little bit. Men sometimes, but a little bit more woman. Men obviously have their own fears, but a little bit us women, a little bit more fear of aging. So when I kind of push a client to examine within what is the fear of aging, you realize that it's all ego sometimes. I don't want to be ugly. I used to have a good body and I don't want to be ugly. I want to have a toned body and I want to look like 20 where I'm 55. Well, that's not going to happen, is it? So again, when you examine the fear, you see which one is important to separate your fear, write it down, do a column, this fear, this column, this fear, and then you go deeper, you go within yourself. It's you with you. No one can do that work for you, or it's you with you, and you examine those fears within you. The example of the aging, for example, that's why a lot of people try to fix their face, and then they look worse. Because if you're 60, you're 60. No matter what you're going to do to your face, you're not going to look 20, which why I gave you my personal example. If Mickey 52, hey, I look okay for 52, I guess. So I'm not going to look 20 anymore. I'm just saying, because then it's backfire on them trying to do all kind of Botox and things like that. I don't have anything against all that. Obviously, if it's something make you feel good, go for it. I'm just saying, be careful where it's originate from. If it's originate from a fear that you go against the age, no, Mickey, I don't want to be fear, then obviously you're not getting rid of the fear. You feed the fear. You make it even bigger because you cooperate with the fear instead of stopping the fear by being aware of it with a spiritual thought. Can you read, Giorgio, please, honey?
Yeah.
With a spiritual thought as to I'm the age that I am, and I love the body for the age that I am. So you have to be, again, you have to kind of break up your fear. Yes, honey.
It's not a question necessarily. It's just comments.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind. Oh, thank you, Jojo. Thank you so much, honey. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Obviously, you want to practice and apply all the practice, because again, my job as a spiritual teacher is to send you to the right direction. No one can do the work for you. No matter how many readings, how much time I can talk to people, how many videos I can do. If you do not do the work, nothing's going to change. And as you grow older, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So you must discipline your fear as you're younger, and if you didn't so far, discipline it now. So you see with the example about the age, how easy it is to recognize where is the fear of age coming from. If a fear of age scare you because you're getting close to death, that's a different story, because now we're getting into fears that you cannot control. If your fear of age is because you're afraid not to look good anymore, and toned body, you can change it. And you change it by being aware you are what you are. You cannot tell that you're 10 years younger, because you're not. Nor you can look the best for the year you have, for the age you have, obviously. So again, don't be fixated on those specific example. As you know, in my videos, I often give example just for you to understand the concept. But what you do is apply that example, obviously, to other things, to other examples. But the point is to understand the concept and then apply my example to other areas in your life. So have a plan. A plan is crucial for fear, because what's happened if you don't have a fear, if you don't have a plan, a fear, which is an energy, will grow, will drag you in, will get worse. The ego the more you feed it, meaning the more you let it be, meaning be afraid. Essentially, you cannot be afraid of your fear. What's that say, honey? Where it says fear itself, remember? The fear.
There's nothing to fear except for fear itself.
Telling you, Clayton? Say again, honey?
There's nothing to fear except fear itself.
I love it. There's nothing to fear except fear itself. It's who said that, dear?
Oh,
I don't know. Really? Usually, my Clayton know about everything, but yeah. It's such a beautiful say, because it's absolutely true. And another thing I know, honey, that Clayton told me a few days ago, I don't know, we were rushing in town, and he says something like 85% of the fears are not even there. Didn't you say that, honey?
There was a Stanford study that said that 85% of things that you're worried about turn out to not need to be worried about.
That's right. Look, Jojo Poo, fear, false evidence.
Appearing real.
I love it. It's beautiful, honey. Yes. So obviously, all those says, all those phrases, are there. I mean, for a reason, But you'll feel once you really overcome the fear, you actually will feel free. Because I remember the day that I actually told myself, because obviously I was afraid of death, and I said, if I'll die, I'm just going to go up to God and see my angels. And he just he freed me. And I remember saying at that specific moment that I think that I pretty much overcome the fear, because I kind of live by that, whether, if I'm too fearful, I say, essentially I say, if I die, I die. Not in a disrespect to my life. Obviously, I, value my life and want to live in a way that, what can I do about it? I mean, I have spirits. They know when I'm supposed to go home and when I'm not, and I'm just going to leave it alone. So I hope that I gave pretty good information today here, guys. It's a very important webinar to not just listen. It's because sometimes some topics are informational in a way that I talk about it and I teach you things, but specifically about fear or ego, which, I love to teach you about ego. You a lot of time in a lot of video I bring up the ego. Fear. Today's webinar, whether you teach from Mickey Jacobs or any other teacher or books, it's practice make better. If you're not going to practice, nothing's going to work. If you're not going to see what fear you can take off your plate and what fear you just have to accept, fears that's out of your control, so you have to practice the exercise. So my request for you is to come up with a plan, write everything, listen to the webinar, and perhaps kind of write things as you listen to it, because it is work. I know from my own life, I know from people that teach, and I know just, those techniques do work, and they will indeed give you freedom from your fear. They really do. So I think I pretty much cover everything. Every time I'm done with a webinar, when we in the car, I tell Clayton, I forgot to say that. So I think that's common, that sometimes we forget something. But once again, I'm thankful that the internet listened to us today, because I was very upset that you guys needed to go home last time. Forgive me. Thank you, Carol, as well. So be good, and I'll see you next time. Watch over the newsletter that Clayton send out with the new topic. Usually I get topics that I know can help you with your life on planet Earth and help you grow spiritually. So take good care, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Take care. Bye. Bye then, Stephen.